G'day everybody, my name is Elliot Waters and you're listening to the Dysregulated Podcast. As always, thank you for tuning in. Well, today's episode, it's a bloody positive one. It's good news. I finally have got in to see a psychiatrist again, and I had the appointment via telehealth today with my psychiatrist, who's based in Sydney, and of course I'm up here in Newcastle, so thank goodness for technology. But this afternoon I had my first initial consult with him. He's an ADHD specialist, and it cost me all of $850 to be basically told we're not going to make any changes just yet, just hold on, which is fine. But it was good just to get back in. That in itself is like a load off my shoulders. I finally have a psychiatrist again, and a psychiatrist that is like mine, like my private psychiatrist, not at the hospital. And he was very, very thorough. So I think he sort of looked at my rundown and was like, geez, there's a lot going on with this bloke, which there is. You know, there's 8 or 9 diagnoses, there's 8 or 9 medications, and I'm doing 2 forms of therapy in one at the moment, which is very impressed about. So there is a lot going on, and it's good that he was very, very thorough and taking a bit of a cautious approach because, well, look, you look at my situation on paper and you think, man, we can't rock the boat too much with this bloke because there's too many things that could potentially spiral out of control. I wouldn't say that anymore, but the potential, according to the diagnoses, is there that it could happen. Although, again, I'm very confident that nothing will, and it hasn't for a long time, as you know, here on the potty. But it was really good to get in. It's unbelievable. This place, like I did my episode before on Oasis, how much I love Oasis. Well, this place is called like Mind in Oasis or something. A friend from work, she told me to give them a try because she got in really quickly with them. And as soon as I saw the Oasis part, I was like, yep, this is meant to be. This is meant to be. So an hour initial consult today, as I said, $850 just to be told, just to be told what I already knew, which was, yes, Elliot, you have ADHD. Yep, thank you. Duh, I've already been through all these assessments before. But anyway, it got confirmed again. For those who are wondering, I am 100% locked in ADHD. And I don't know, it was good to get that out of the way because there was a real part of me that was real worried that I wouldn't be told that I was ADHD, that they would say, listen, you're actually not, you're this, and this instead, because that would be so invalidating. One of the good things about these labels that I've collected, all these diagnoses, ADHD being right at the top of this list, is that it explains a lot of what's gone on and what's happening now, and you don't want to take these diagnoses on as like your persona, which unfortunately people do, especially those with BPD tend to, and I've fallen into that trap a little bit. You don't want to take these disorders on as your persona, but at the same time, I don't mind having a few of them because it's like, all right, well, this and this happened, but, this is the disorder that caused it, and it explains everything and it validates all the things that I've gone through and all the experiences that I have. So that in itself was good. I was very stressed today at work, very stressed, couldn't focus, which funnily enough, couldn't focus. That's obviously a key determinant of ADHD, but I couldn't because my mind was all about this appointment. So that's more of a generalized anxiety thing that was pulling me in that direction. Not so much the ADHD a little bit, but that was a very anxiety sort of response. And I said that to him too. I said, although the main reason that I want to see a psychiatrist, well, there's 2 reasons. One is because I'm on so many different medications and I'd like someone to sort of be overseeing that. My GP does a great job. My GP is brilliant, but he will be the first to admit that he's not a psychiatrist and he has his own limitations, and I go well beyond them. Sorry, Dr. Miller. And so I want someone to sort of have a look at the mix-up and be like, okay, we might bump that one up. We might get rid of that. Hopefully there's a few get rid of that. So I want the overall picture sort of looked at in a little bit more clarity and by someone who is an expert in the field because, I keep getting told how complex of a case I am. So I don't know. I guess I need the specialist looking, and that's what a psychiatrist is. And the other reason is to hopefully get back on some stimulant medication. So if you listen to a lot of the episodes, you may remember that I've said that I'm prescribed a medication called modafinil, which is a stimulant in itself, but it's a wakefulness drug, not an ADHD drug, although it is prescribed for that off-label, which is exactly what's happening with me today. I just got my script filled of modafinil, and because it's off-label, that means that in Australia there's the PBS, which is the Pharmaceutical Benefits Scheme, which essentially makes common medications affordable for people. But for it to be at the discounted price, it has to be prescribed for the reason that it's being, it's being ticked off the list. It's prescribed for this disorder because that's what the PBS have signed off and said, yep, that's it. ADHD is not one for modafinil, although, as I said, people do use it off-label. So I paid $230 today for my modafinil. And the thing is, see, it's not actually designed or used for ADHD because it's not the most effective medication out there. Those are dexamphetamine, Vyvanse, Ritalin, Concerta, etc. But these stimulants can only be prescribed by by a psychiatrist. And so at the moment, for about 18 months now, because I haven't had a psychiatrist outside a hospital, I've been using modafinil because GPs aren't allowed to prescribe the good stuff. Shouldn't say it like that. The effective medication, first-line medications for ADHD. But GPs can prescribe modafinil. So that was basically the idea was that's the best that we can do for now until I get a psychiatrist. It's just a shame that it took so long to get a bloody psychiatrist. But anyway, I've got one now. So there's two reasons. One is my complex myriad of medications. Let's get a bit of a handle on this. And let's get someone, specialised to oversee it and make sure it is as it needs to be. I have a funny feeling I will start to titrate off more medications, but we'll see. And the other reason is to hopefully get re-prescribed stimulant medication. That's the thing. Like I've been on dexamphetamine before. I've been on Vyvanse, which is lisdexamphetamine, the long-acting version. I've had Ritalin before, been on all that. So, as I said to him, I said, this is not new territory. This is not new ground. He did ask me, how effective was it? And I said, it was effective, but it used to wear off too quickly. So just briefly, 70 milligrams is the top dose of Vyvanse. That's pretty full on. And I started at 50 and got up to 70. And the idea was the stronger it is, isn't the stronger effect, it's the length. Oh, this is going to be hard to explain. Okay, so lisdexamphetamine's got, I should have researched this, lysine molecule attached to it. So what happens is the body's got to break down that molecule or enzyme. It could be, I really should have checked this. I'll come back to you with the real accurate answer. But the body has to break it down from the lisdexamphetamine just into dexamphetamine. So the idea is with Vyvanse that you have the medication and your body takes a while to sort of, pull it apart and make dexamphetamine go down that stream. And the other thing, which I've forgotten unbelievably down the other stream, see, ADHD brain, all over the shop. Anyway, the idea is the stronger it is, the longer it will take because the body can only break down this molecule at a certain rate. So after a threshold, the stronger it is more about not the effects that hit you because it can only go at a certain level because of that enzyme molecule thing that I'm totally butchering. What was I saying? See, I forgot. Oh, see, this is why I need the medication. Oh, yeah, because, and then breaks it down to dexamphetamine and then, but the stronger it is, the more that's sort of banked up and it takes a little bit longer at the bottleneck to sort of get through. So the idea is that it'll last longer. So Vyvanse, they love to say, oh, no, it lasts for 8 hours, you just need one pill. Well, that's not true, or at least it wasn't for me. And I said to him, look, the Vyvanse and the dexamphetamine, which is short-acting, I'll try and be brief about this too, but is short-acting. So you have to redose like every 2 hours. And for someone with extreme emotional dysregulation, hence the podcast name, having amphetamine every 2 hours made me really up and down. So Vyvanse is the long-acting version, and it's meant to last for, they reckon 6 to 8 hours, but I've never got more than 5 good hours out of it. So I said that to him. I said, Vyvanse works really well, but it doesn't last long enough. And the come down anxiety crash is quite huge, and I was never able to figure out how to get around that. If you want to go back to the first episodes of this podcast, or the first few up until through my thesis, that episode, and into it more, the first half of this podcast is basically me with anxiety from the stimulant medication, the jitters, but also just trying to make life work. That's sort of what the first part of this poddy, I suppose, is about. It's very much my journey in many respects with the stimulant medication. So I might even go back and have a listen to some of those episodes and be like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember what it was like, staying up all night, 24 hours, trying to finish my thesis off, just being fueled by amphetamine. I remember that, and how unhealthy that was, and how that cannot happen again. And it can't. But that's the thing. The Vyvanse, to me, it unlocks potential and my ability to get things done. But it does have a cost for me, which has been the severe anxiety and at times a very dysphoric or depressed mood as well. So we spoke about that briefly, and he asked me if I'd ever been on Ritalin before. Now, I've never been prescribed Ritalin, but look, I'll admit, hand on heart, I've had quite a lot of experience with Ritalin over the years, some of it for recreational value, not that it did that much because it sort of calms me down and, that's the whole ADHD thing, but also to try and self-medicate. I'm not doing it now, but I have in the past. And he said how Ritalin, which is methylphenidate, if we want to get all technical, it doesn't seem to have the same crashes that the dexamphetamine does. So that's an option moving forward. The long-acting version of Ritalin is Concerta, so I would not be surprised if that's what I eventually get put on. But I wasn't put on that today because, let's be honest, he looked at my presentation and goes, right, there's a bit going on here. I need a bit more time just to go through, all the discharge papers. I should have said just listen to the potty on the discharge papers and see what other psychiatrists have said, because a lot of different doctors have had their sort of fingers in the pie, and we need to come up with a plan that's very sort of singular, very linear, because it's anything but linear at the moment. But hey, that's the nature of ADHD. So the plan is that my GP is sending across all my documentation. I've got to make another appointment, which I'll do Monday, and then we'll see where we go from there. So there you go. But I just wanted to report, happy days. I am back with a psychiatrist. And I'll tell you, hey, look, often I've been with psychiatrists and I've thought, this is so bad, but anyway, that I know more than they do. Dr. Wellard, who was my psychiatrist at Maitland Private, who I've spoken about on the potty before, he blew me away, and I was like, man, I'm nowhere near this guy's league. He just absolutely knocked me out of the park, and it was great. My most recent psychiatrist registrar at Ishmu was the same, and today this doctor was the same again. There was no, I reckon I could do a better job than this bloke. I know more about this stuff than he does. There was none of that. This guy was switched on. He knew what he was doing. And to be honest with you, the fact that he's delayed any prescribing of medication, I think is actually a really, really good sign, because he's taken it seriously. He's actually looked at the piece of paper, and instead of just, ticking and flicking and saying, right, oh, there you go, there's your script, on your way, he's actually said, look, we don't want to rock the boat here because there's a bit going on. So let's do this properly. And I think that's really good. That's really good. So rash, impulsive decisions, which again is a hallmark of ADHD, is not something I want in my psychiatrist. That's for sure. So it's very good, I think, that we're taking a bit of time. And the other reason too is, and this bugs me a bit, so out of all the diagnoses I've got, the one that doesn't fit as well as the others is bipolar disorder. I'm still on the fence whether I'm type 2 bipolar or if really it's just a combination of the BPD and ADHD. I've got no questions about those two. As far as I'm concerned, they're locked in. But the bipolar disorder has never really sat right with me. And it's frustrating because one of the main reasons that there was no prescription done today is because of this potential for stimulant medication to push people who are bipolar into manic episodes. And we definitely don't want to do that. So, and I said, out of all the diagnoses I've got, that's the one that I don't feel like fits as well as the rest. But, I've still sort of got it, so I can't ignore it. So that's why he wants to go back, look at my discharge papers, which I should have just said, listen to the potty, they're all on here. Not all of them, actually, there's plenty more coming. Anyway, go back to the discharge papers, see what these other mental health professionals have said, and then come up with a sort of a decision there. Because most of the discharge papers don't mention bipolar disorder at all, but they certainly mention ADHD, OCD, BPD, all the anxiety disorders, all that sort of stuff as well. So anyway, that's the story. The great news is that I am back with a psychiatrist. It's been like 2 years or something since I've actually had one in the private sort of field, not through the hospital. So it's very, very exciting for things moving forward. So my doctors, my GP, have already rung me and asked for permission if they're able to send the medication, the discharge papers along. So I seriously got it out of the appointment. He said he was going to ring my GP at some point. 6 minutes later, my GP office is ringing me saying, we've had a phone call from, old mate psychiatrist. Is it okay if we send across these paperwork? So that's pretty good too. He's switched on, He's not like me putting things off, straight in there. And that can only bode well for me moving forward. So very exciting stuff. Had to share it with you all today. So that's really cool. So we'll see what happens next. But yeah, there you go. Back with a psychiatrist. How good is that? And it is good because it's really good for my prognosis moving forward because, look, let's be honest, I am a complex case. There are a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of medications. So it's pretty exciting to finally have a mental health professional that's in my corner that's going to really, really take care of this properly, I hope. It's so far so good. Anyway, that's all from me. Thank you for listening as always. I do appreciate it. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can at elliot.t.waters. And you can like, subscribe, and you can share around the podcast with your mates and give it a great, 5-star rating if you could, because it's really good for the algorithm. Thank you in advance. So thank you everybody for listening, and I'll see you next time here on the Dysregulated Podcast.